Hello, my name's Zoë Harcombe and I'm author of The Harcombe Diet. I'd like to do a short video on the UK equivalent of the US food pyramid. And we have something which the authorities call the Eat Well plate. I call it the Eatbadly plate. It is so far removed from a model of healthy eating, it's difficult to believe how it could be further from that. Now, it actually started off as the Balance of Good Health, it was called. And this plate came about in 1994, and this was known as the Balance of Good Health. And it's going to be difficult for you to see the detail, but if you go on the internet and put in the Balance of Good Health plate, you'll be able to see this in quite accurate detail. And just to see the processed food that the food industry managed to get graphically represented on this plate is quite incredible. You've even got a packet of cornflakes there. In this starchy food, they can't just let you have spaghetti. You've actually got a sugared, branded Heinz tin of spaghetti in there. You've got pizza mix, you've got white bread and grains, you've got here currant buns, which are going to be absolutely laden with sugar and white flour. Moving around into milk and dairy foods, they can't just put cheese up there and milk and stuff that naturally comes from the animals. They've got to put in sugared yoghurt, milkshakes, sugared other substances here. You've got the fromage frais. I mean, it's just an example. You've got the probiotic drinks, just an example of processed, sugared, adulterated foods that we just do not need to be putting into our body. This is the incredible segment. Now, what they're saying is, in terms of the weight, I mean, this is supposed to be a pictorial representation of a plate. So when we sit down for a meal, this is what our plate is supposed to look like. We're supposed to have a third in the form of fruit and vegetables, and again, if they're sugared tins of vegetables or sugared coleslaw or sugared tins of fruit, doesn't much matter to dietitians. 1/3 in the form of starchy, fattening carbohydrates, only about 15% in the form of dairy, but again, this can be sugared rubbish, and about 12% in the form of meat, fish, or other protein alternatives. Obviously, to accommodate vegetarians, these don't even have to be meat or fish. They can also be beans and pulses. You've got peanut butter here. You've got tins of beans, baked beans, of course, which are generally very, very sugary. But then this incredible segment here, which is only supposed to be 7% of our plate, but it's supposed to be a part of our plate every time we sit down to eat. When you actually look at what happens in terms of energy density, which I have done, this 33% becomes 6% of our diet, because of course these foods tend to be very low in calories. This 33% of our plate ends up being 50% of our calorie intake, and this supposedly small segment, because of the energy density in, you know, the junk here, you've got sausage rolls, sweets, chocolate, cakes, donuts, Coca-Cola, you know, why not have Coca-Cola on there as well? That ends up being 22% of our energy intake. Now, this was the Balance of Good Health, as I said, launched in 1994. They had a rebranding of it in 2007. It was relaunched in a press release September 2007, and it came out as the Eat Well plate. Now, the branding has gone from the cornflakes, but the cornflakes are still there. You've got Weetabix. The carbohydrates in this section arguably have got even whiter. I mean, at least up there you've got some brown bread. Here it's pretty much all white bread, white bagels, refined carbohydrates that break down into glucose and make you fat beautifully. And again, you've got the sugared yogurts, you've got baked beans, lovely and sugary, sugared tins of fruit and syrup. And then this junk segment with the Coca-Cola again, the sweets, the chocolate, the Battenberg cake, the biscuits. There's a Victoria sponge cake in there. And this is how our government thinks we should be eating. And if there were ever a clearer cause of the obesity epidemic than this, I don't know what it is. I mean, this just fuels obesity like we could not believe. Where is the real food on that? Where is the food that we've evolved to eat? Barry Groves does a brilliant thing in one of his presentations where he says that's essentially fructose and that's essentially glucose. And what you're saying down here is don't eat too much sucrose, and sucrose at the end of the day is just one molecule of glucose and one molecule of fructose. So you're saying don't eat too much glucose fructose, but then you're saying eat loads of glucose fructose. I mean, we've just got it completely screwy the wrong way around. It's like we don't know what glucose, fructose, sugars, break down into. There's a few more nutrients in these things than there are in pure sugar, but the body will break them down into sugars in just the same way, and they can make us beautifully fat. So I really, really passionately dislike this plate because it is making UK PLC, my fellow citizens, fat and sick, and it's evil, and it is promoted so aggressively by dietitians and people who believe in this nonsense, public health authorities. Next time you're in a surgery or a school, have a look out for this and just see what it is that you're being advised to eat, because it's what is making us fat and sick. Please don't follow it. Listen to Mother Nature and eat what she provides instead. Thanks very much for listening.